Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol. Now then, behind me is a Polestar 2, a car I've wanted to get on the channel for quite some time. And I've been driving the car behind me for the last week. I've done very nearly 500 miles and I've learned a great deal. Now it's safe to say my history on the channel with electric cars has been a checkered one. Some very good experiences and some pretty poor ones. The big question is, which did I get with the Polestar 2? Now it's safe to say I often get lots of requests from you guys to review particular cars, and that is definitely the case for the Polestar 2. So I'm chuffed to have been able to get my hands on one for a whole week and really get to know about this car. And what I want to do in this video is take a retrospective look back at my week. I've driven this car on some epic roads, I've taken it on a long trip, I've even had it on a motor circuit. So there's plenty to talk about. Styling wise, I love the look of this car. It gets lots of looks, lots of people coming up and asking what it is. It draws the attention. In this kind of fully blacked out look, I think it looks mean as hell, but it does also look great with different colors. It can really pop, this car. Let's do some numbers to start with. So first of all, it's an all-electric car. It's powered by two 150 kilowatt motors. That's 300 kilowatts in total. Now in old money, that's 408 horsepower with 660 Newton meters of torque. It is safe to say this car is no slouch. It will dispatch 60 miles an hour in 4.8 seconds and go on to a limited top speed of 127 miles an hour. Now it's got a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. Polestar quote very nearly 300 miles of range. In my experience, on a full charge, which this car has right now, it's indicating 250 miles. And in the real world, I think you're going to get a little bit less than that. I put it into a test, in a long range test this week. Let's see how I get on later in this video. In terms of spec, there are a couple of options that this car has which aren't cheap but are well worth doing. And the first one is something called a performance pack. It is a £5,000 option, but the two standout items you get with a performance pack. Firstly, these beautiful diamond cut, forged 20-inch alloy wheels with the most incredible looking brakes behind them. The gold calipers with Polestar and Brembo branding, drilled discs, they just look absolutely awesome. And then what you can't see, because it's, if you like, behind the skin, is I've got a set of 10-way manually adjustable Ohlins dampers. That means this car has the most phenomenal ride. We'll talk about those a little bit more as we get going. But to start off the review, I'm actually going to jump in the back of the car and talk about the practicality, because it's very much a saloon car format from the outside, but it has all the practicality of a hatch. Now, there's not a gigantic amount of room in the back of this car, especially if you're a tall, leggy person like me, but it's not too bad. It's very airy in here, lovely full glass roof. But even though this car has a saloon car profile, it is a hatch and it is super practical. And earlier on in the week, I needed to go to Wales and I wanted to take my bike with me. So I popped the hatch at the back. Now what I would say is there's a parcel shelf in the back. It's a bit flimsy, and if you want to put something in the back as big as a bike, then I had to leave that behind, but these seats drop down really easily. I got my bike in with both wheels on and all of my luggage, which I was really impressed with. And that for me makes this car, for me anyway, more practical than something like a Tesla Model 3, which is a saloon and you don't have that hatchback format. But I wanted to see what the range was like. I've done a few long trips in EVs before. They haven't gone well. So I took it on a nice long drive to Wales. Let's see how we got on. Okay, we are on our way to Wales. Now, I'm going for it. I have a 100% charge, 240 miles of range. I've plugged my destination into the sat nav and it is 200 miles. So I reckon I can get there in one go without having to make a charge stop, which is the first time I've been able to get to this particular destination in Wales without having to stop in an EV. And then tomorrow I know I've got access to a 3-phase charger, so a 22 kilowatt charger. So I'm going to be able to put the car on charge tomorrow. So I'll be able to recuperate my charge before I have to return home. That's the theory. And I've got the bike in the back and it's not rattling. That's even better. Now that we are about halfway, I've just been catching up on the Cycle Sunday podcast. Hopefully you guys do that as well. You can find it anywhere where you get your podcast. Just search Cycle Sunday podcast or head over to the Cycle Sunday podcast YouTube channel. Anyway, more on the journey. So, 100 miles to go. Range-wise, I'm now pretty much 48% of the battery left, 120 miles of range left. And it's quite interesting because I thought I was going to get there with maybe 30 odd miles left of range, maybe even 35 to 40. I don't think that's going to happen. There is a little indicator on the Google Maps estimated time of arrival notification that says I'm going to have 6% of my battery left when I get to my destination, which is a little bit worrying. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, because what happens now, I've still got quite a bit of dual carriageway, but then the last hour and 45 minutes is lots of kind of little twisty B roads and stuff. So not quite as efficient as sitting on a dual carriageway at 70 miles an hour. But let's see. But the range anxiety is kicking in just a little bit. Bad news. Firstly, I've hit traffic. But secondly, my estimated charge at the destination is now only 1%, and that's not good enough. 104 miles to go, 110 miles of range. I'm going to need to make a stop. So while I'm creeping in this traffic, before anybody says it's dangerous to touch your sat nav, if you can't do this while you're just creeping in traffic, you shouldn't be driving. So I'm going to go back to my destination. I'm going to add a charge stop. And I've got a fast charge, Instavolt fast charge. Oh, that sounds good. Instavolt fast charger, 25-minute charge. Okay, let's go there then. Good. So an hour and 15 minutes to my charge stop, and I'll get there with 28% battery. Okay. The joys of having an electric car. So I thought I was going to get to my destination with ample amounts of range, 240 miles of range on a 200-mile journey, and that is not the case. So I'm now going to have to basically stop at Instavolt. Poo. So we are a mile away from this Instavolt charge station, and the estimated charge at arrival is 30%, and I'm showing 31%, so that's accurate. So all we need to do now I don't need to get a full charge here. I'm literally going to try and charge for 20-25 minutes, and the reason is I'm actually due to be going out on my bike with someone when I get to my destination, and this impromptu charge stop has totally scuppered those plans completely, because it's basically adding an extra half an hour onto my journey, and I was tight anyway. I was going to get there about 5:45. We were due to be going out on the bikes at 6. I'm now, I think, going to get there about 6:25. So this hasn't been helpful at all. But now let's see if this Google Maps is going to take me to this Instavolt charge station. Hopefully it will. And then I think the charge stop is in the Diner car park. Oh, they're over there. Have we got any cars plugged in? No. Awesome. Right, and I reckon that should be enough electrons. See how many we've got in my little app. So I charged for 24 minutes and 16 seconds. That got me 16.8 kilowatt hours and cost me £6.76. But I now have a range of 130 miles and my destination is 51 miles, and I'll arrive there with 33% battery left. That's a bit more like it. Put that there. So there you go, I have arrived at my destination. Now I still have 28% of my battery left. That's good enough for 70 miles. So tomorrow I can get this car on a 3-phase charger all day, bring that battery pack all the way up to 100%. What it will mean on the way back, I think I'm going to have to plan in a stop on the way back, and that was my problem with this one. I hadn't planned a stop because I thought I had enough range to get to my destination. That didn't turn out to be the case, which was disappointing. However, putting that to one side, I think the car behaved really well. When I realised I wasn't going to get to my destination, I reprogrammed the sat-nav. It chose me an intermediary charge stop, a fast Instavolt charger. I had a few challenges with Instavolt. I'd not used them before, so I had to get the app on my phone and register a payment card and all of those types of things. So that added like an extra hour to my trip, which was annoying because I didn't think I needed to do that. Originally, when I was going to do this journey, I was planning to leave an hour early and have a charge stop, and I would have got here on time. I'd have gone out on my bike, which is still in the back of the car. And that's the problem with EVs. You can do your planning, and that's fine. But if circumstances, if the dice roll in such a way that you suddenly need to make a charge stop you hadn't planned, that messes up your timings. That can mess up your day. But the car was great. I feel fresh as a daisy. Really nice journey. So I think I'm going to head in and grab myself a beer. But yeah, a very interesting journey. Let's jump into the most important seat in the house, shall we? So, first off, I really like this interior. I think it's a very well designed and very ergonomically well designed cabin. This car has a £4,000 option of this Barley Napa leather interior, and that also comes with this wood trim around here and on the dash. Now, personally, I really like that because it's a bit different, but I'm sure many of you won't. So with the performance pack and that trim, price-wise for this car, these start at £49,900, and with £10,000 of options, that's £59,900 for the car that we're sat in. Interior-wise, other materials I like. The steering wheel and driving position is excellent. I love the material just here on the dash. It's also down on the door cards, some nice leather on the door cards. What I don't particularly like is the material that covers the dash here and this surround and the top of the door. I quite like the feel of it, but it marks quite easily, and I think long-term ownership, that would do my head in. There's no start-stop button in this car. You just get in it with a key in your pocket and it turns on, and when you get out, it turns off. That takes a little bit of getting used to. I like the gear controller just here, and then we have a big tablet, and that is a Google Android based tablet. There are very few buttons in here, but more on that in a moment. I've got a wireless charge map for my smartphone, but it's Android based and I'm an Apple fan, so I had to embrace the world of Google in my week with this car. But that's actually not as painful as I thought it was going to be. The satellite navigation is provided by Google Maps, and the integration with the charge network is excellent. One of the best non-Tesla cars I've experienced to date. Really is, and it makes the long-term ownership and long-term journeys or long-distance journeys far more doable. Other things, you've got a radio and you can listen to Spotify playlists and so on, and you think, oh, where are the buttons? This is going to be annoying playing with this tablet. Well, it's just like driving around a big smart speaker. Actually, what you need to do is use the Google Assistants with voice activation. There's a little button on the steering wheel, and just ask Google to do stuff. Ask Google to play you a music track or a Spotify playlist, or change the climate control. And once you start to do that, you can actually sit here and concentrate on the driving. Drive modes wise, there are quite a small number, really. There isn't, like sport and normal and eco and individual. You've got a one pedal driving mode. There are 3 settings to that: off, low and standard. I've basically been using standard most of the time. It's quite aggressive, but it's a technique I've enjoyed learning. So you don't generally need to touch the brake pedal very much at all under normal driving. If you're really pushing on, clearly you do. Steering feel you can adjust, again 3 levels: light, standard and firm. I find the firm setting is too firm for my liking, so I've just been going in the standard setting, and that has a really nice steering feel. And then there is a sport mode, which just turns all of the traction control systems off. I haven't actually used that, so can't really comment. And then the last thing to mention is there's a range of different driver assist packages, and what I do like is you can turn them on and off through the tablet, especially the lane keeping assistance. I can turn that off and then it stays off all the time until I go back in there and turn it back on again, and I like that because I hate lane keeping assistance. So with all of this power, over 400 horsepower, Ohlins dampers on each corner, this car should drive brilliantly. So earlier on in the week, I found myself on an amazing piece of Welsh B road, and I was able to push on a little bit and also reminisce about some track time I had at Goodwood just a few weeks ago in one of these. Let's see how I got on. So what's this car like on a nice bit of B road? Well, actually really very impressive. The suspension setup is really very competent. We've got Ohlins dampers on each corner, and it just gives you a really mature ride. It kind of covers the ground very nicely, and even when the car's upset by bumps and lumps in the road surface, it doesn't really unsettle the car a great deal. It's very smooth. Power delivery, like any EV, is very linear, but you've got this incredible instant torque that we always go on about whenever you're driving an electric car. And what that means is you can pick up the throttle really early and get instant traction and pull out of corners. And it just changes the way that you drive any kind of B road. The brakes on this car are, well, firstly, I think they look amazing with those big gold calipers and Brembo and Polestar written on them. But they are very impressive. But actually, the one thing that is impressive is the one pedal driving. Now you can turn it off, and it's a fun car to drive when you've got, see, look at that pull out of the corners. It's a really fun car to drive when you've got a nice empty open bit of road like this, and you can string some flowing bends together. You don't actually need to use the brake pedal that much. You just lift off and it just retards the car nicely. And yes, you don't get any of the auditory pleasure of an internal combustion engine, but right now I don't really care because it's just excellent fun. And it's quick, really, really quick. Down into this tighter corner, onto the brakes, pick up the throttle nice and early, balance it through, and then boom. Oh yes. Sharp on the brakes. It's a really good car, this. Really, really good car. Question is, it actually feels like a way more competent car than I can tap into on the public highway. So what's it like on track? Well, a few weeks ago I was at the Goodwood Media Drive Day, and I got to drive one of these in anger around the Goodwood Motor Circuit, and it really was very impressive. Take a look at this. Off the line pace of this thing with the dual motor is really impressive. But let's just talk through how this car handles on a racetrack. And I'm not too sure how many owners are going to take their Polestar and stick it on a racetrack, and this is actually the first time I've ever driven an electric car on a racetrack. And it is quite interesting because you've got no noise reference for a start. But what is hugely, hugely impressive is how good this car feels on a track. Let's just talk about the brakes. They are really, really good. We haven't got the one pedal driving turned on for race driving, and that's fine, but they really do a job and stop the car. Very low centre of gravity, so you've got a lot of confidence around the corners. It just has this lovely settled feeling. But it's the power delivery, because you've got the instant torque. You don't have to wait for kickdown. You can just slowly apply the throttle, and it's very easy to drive this car smoothly. And the smoother you drive any race car, but certainly this one, the more you get out of it. Now, it's got a speed limiter on it. It's not going to go any more than about 127 miles an hour, but that's 123 on the Lavant Straight without any dramas whatsoever. Come down into Woodcote, just lift off, carry a little bit of the speed through.
And then we talk about the dampers. So it's got these adjustable Ohlins dampers, and when I first read about those, I thought, really? On an electric car? I mean, who really needs adjustable dampers on an EV? I get it now, because actually you could take this on a track day and you could set the car up just how you want it. As 110 down the main straight coming into Madwick. Just ease off, double apex at Madwick. It's just so settled through here. And what I'm finding is it's a brilliant car to drive on track. And any doubters, anybody who thought that an EV wouldn't have good track manners, well, all I need to say to you is get a decent EV like one of these, find a track and go and experience it for yourself before being a doubting Thomas, because honestly, it's brilliant. Now that was my first ever time driving an electric car on a motor circuit, and I found it really interesting. Very different techniques involved. Clearly there's kind of no changing down through the gears and all that kind of stuff. You've got this instant torque that you can play with, and you can get on the power super quick. This car unfortunately has a limiter on the top end speed just after 125 miles an hour. So on a motor circuit with a straight, that's the thing that's going to slow you down. In fact, you're not going to go any faster than that. Clearly that's not going to trouble me driving down a nice British B road with national speed limits. But really interesting on a motor circuit. Very, very competent. One of the things I can't comment on is this 10-way adjustable Ohlins dampers, in terms of adjusting them and saying what the difference is in the driving feel. My gut feel says it sounds great, but the vast majority of people will never adjust them. And the other thing is, I remember meeting a guy at a track day once who had an Ariel Atom with adjustable dampers, and one day he decided to adjust the dampers on his own and basically put the car in a ditch because he didn't know what he was doing. So it may well sound good having adjustable dampers, but I'm not sure in the real world how useful that really is. But the right quality of these Ohlins dampers is very, very good, and it really does make the car a very special thing when you get the right kind of B road like this, or as I was lucky enough to do on a motor circuit. But bang, out the corner, brilliant. So as you can see, I've been quite impressed with this car this week. There are many, many things I like about it. I love the styling. It's certainly a car that draws attention, and with the performance pack and those bigger wheels and those incredible brakes, it looks amazing from the outside. It's a comfortable car to do a long journey in. A couple of minor gripes. Range-wise, I have no problem with this car doing 250 miles only, and I know some of you will want 300 or 400 miles, but I appreciate that the extra weight in batteries to achieve that may well damage some of the really cool things about this car in terms of the way it feels when you drive it. But if a car's going to state 250 miles on the gauge, it needs to be able to deliver 250 miles and not change halfway through the journey, because you make your plans based on what that predicted range is going to be. And I appreciate if I'd have suddenly changed my driving style and been driving more aggressively, I get it, but I didn't, and that really did hamper my drive to Wales. Everything else though, it's a very, very competent car. Price point wise, I know that electric cars are expensive. Whenever I review an electric car, people go, oh my goodness, they're so expensive. And I appreciate that they are, but there aren't that many that are, if you like, sub £40,000. So at just shy of £50,000 without the performance pack and the leather, I think this car actually is good value, and certainly stacks up against something like a Tesla Model 3 with the performance or long range version. So yeah, if you are in the market for an EV, this is definitely one that you should try. Final little gripe, I'm not a big fan of the sticker on the door saying Polestar 2 battery electric vehicle. I just think that looks a bit tacky, and I don't think it's needed. But that's just me and a personal thing. But yeah, very, very good car. Anyway guys, I would love to know what you think of the Polestar 2. Put it in the comments below. But if you've enjoyed that one, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol, plenty more content to come, and I'll see you on the next film guys. But you take care, drive safe. Now then you two, fancy going for a walk? What do you reckon? Come on then.